Welcome to Gather for Wellness Radio, brought to you by gatherforwellness.com, where we bring wellness experts to you so you can listen, learn, implement, and thrive.
I'm your host, Becky Litwicki, here with Stephanie Long for episode number 18. In this episode, Stephanie shares her story about how being an extreme people pleaser drove her into mental and physical burnout. Thankfully, though, she was inspired to change her health with food. And after she started implementing several small lifestyle changes, she noticed huge improvements in her health and far less anxiety and stress. Now, she's a holistic nutritionist and culinary nutrition expert on a mission to help others take control of their health with nutrition, self-care practices, and kindness. Here's a sneak peek.
So it's just so funny that now looking back, everything happened in my life for a reason. I truly believe that. All of my headaches and my stomach aches and my back aches and everything I always experienced as a child and as a young adult were for the reason that I can help others now. And I didn't really see the strength in that before or the blessing, but now that I work with clients, the fact that I can be real with them and say hey, I experienced that. I know, I understand. It's a huge blessing.
Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really excited to have you on and talk about some self-care and self-love strategies. So can you start by telling everybody a little bit about who you are?
Sure, definitely. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, Becky. So my name is Stephanie, and I go by the business name Stephanie Long Nutrition. A little bit of background, I'm actually originally from north of Toronto in Canada and lived there most of my life, attended university just outside of there. And then about 6 years ago, I moved to Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And I've lived here on and off for 6 years. So I'll get to that a little bit more while I go through my story. It's been a long, winding road to get to where I am now. So basically going way back, I was raised by a single mom. I do have a brother, but he actually moved in with my dad and I stayed living with my mom. So essentially I kind of grew up as a single child in the family. And, unfortunately, with a single mom, there's lots of responsibilities. My mom had to work quite constantly, late hours, early mornings. And, a lot of the pressure kind of was put on me to, take care of myself at a young age. So I had to do a lot of, making dinners, kind of fending for myself, doing laundry, just kind of all the things that, a kid shouldn't really have to do. But when push comes to shove, you just do it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was basically my childhood. I didn't really have a lot of time to actually kind of zone into myself and ask myself, how am I feeling? How am I doing? And really develop opinions about things. I kind of was just going through the motions at that point in my life, just, okay, what's next? And, so on and so forth. And then that kind of led me to university. And as a kid, I was always really interested in theater. As much as I am an extroverted person, I am an introvert as well. So I'll talk about that. So I wasn't actually I would get terrified to act on a stage. I was more let's just sit in the back corner and work on the set or do the lighting.
Okay.
So I decided to go to university for theater, and my passion kind of fell into more of the design aspect. And then, of course, with university comes, the meal card. So you can buy any type of food that you want at any point, and you can, order pizza late at night, or you can just go wild.
Yeah. And parents aren't there to tell you no.
Exactly. And I mean, I think I knew at that point, I was very much always aware of nutrition, but I wasn't making the right decisions, and I was ignoring my body basically at that point. So I ended up gaining a lot of weight after university. I had a lot of student debt after university, so I went right to a corporate job and worked there for a few years. And that's basically where I ended up hitting rock bottom with my health, because I just felt really sick. I felt really sick, really tired every day. I was having chronic headaches very constantly, 3 times a week at least. And they were the migraine headaches, lay in your bed, no lights, no sound. And I would cry a lot of the time. That seemed to relieve a lot of pain for me. So I was just very unhappy at this point. But I still, tried to be social, tried to be active. I still didn't have like a really great handle on my diet, but, I was just trying to survive through life. But then it kind of just got to a point where I was, I'd say sick every single day or every few days. And I just decided, why am I doing this to myself? Like, this isn't normal. Yeah. This isn't like, this shouldn't be real life. I want more and I want to offer more. So yeah, I decided to really look at my diet, and I actually turned vegetarian at that point. And I did do vegan for a little while as well. And, I started feeling a lot better because I was adding so many nutrients into my diet.
Sure.
And then I kind of got to the point where, I was telling all my friends and all my family nutrition things, and they were kind of listening, but kind of not taking me super seriously. So I decided to go back to school, and I went to the Canadian School of Natural Nutrition, out of Toronto. So, that was, just over a year course. And, I learned so much during my entire year. It completely changed my life. At that point, I actually decided to start eating meat again, because there was something that one of my teachers said, and I love sharing this with people. She said something along the lines of, every day when you wake up, think of what you're doing is working for you. And it's such a simple thing, but it actually like blew my mind. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
And for me, it was like a trigger to think like, is being a vegetarian working for me right now? I love the moral aspect of it, the ethical, I feel clean when I'm eating vegetarian, but I was still suffering quite a few issues, kind of still getting the headaches, getting dizzy spells, fainting spells, things like that. Yeah. And I just kind of, something inside me clicked. And when she said that, and I was like, it's not working for me right now. So I ended up adding meat back into my diet, and I still usually do, I'd say, 50 to 75% vegetarian, and then meat the rest of the time. Mm-hmm. But that was kind of the turning point really in my healing journey of feeling better. So from there, basically, I was living in Toronto. I just finished school. My partner was able to get work in Edmonton, and we had lived here previously. So we moved back to Edmonton. And yeah, this is where I've been ever since, just building my business, making a lot of connections. I've actually started teaching for the Canadian School of Natural Nutrition, so I'm a teacher there as well. And yeah, I'm just kind of loving life right now and figuring out what direction I want to go in.
That's awesome. I love that teacher brought that question to you, because it's a recurring thing that we have on the show from one guest to another, just discovering the expert within you. And I think sometimes we just simple questions like that, even on a daily basis, like, is what I'm doing, like, how did you say it? Is what I'm doing helping me?
Yeah. Or is it like serving me right now? Or is it like kind of bringing out my best self, I guess? That's the way I think of it now daily. Yeah.
And it's such a simple question, but like you said, it can be so profound, and maybe it is your entire diet, but maybe it's just the way that you're approaching a project, or, the way that you're starting your mornings chaotic instead of with a few minutes of gratitude or something.
Oh, yes. And that is one of my biggest ones where, the mornings I'll wake up. This morning, actually, I was like, I know better than to do this. But, I rolled over in bed, grabbed my phone, and then let social media determine, how am I going to feel today?
Yeah.
For the mornings when I wake up, and I I really try to make a point to do thank you for allowing me to be alive today. And, thank you for giving me, health and wellness. And even sometimes those things might not be true, but I'm, kind of repositioning them into positives and bringing more, positive energy into my life. So yeah, I totally get that.
Very cool. In your bio, you said, from a really young age, I had the mindset that my energy and my life were not my own property, but something to be given away to others at my own expense. So, I think that's a pretty common feeling. I don't know if most people have recognized that they have that belief. Mm-hmm. But what first helped you to recognize that it was a limiting belief for you?
Mm-hmm, totally. I don't even know if I realized it was a limiting belief. I know I was saying that to you a bit earlier, but I think that there was just a point where I hit a wall, and I just said to myself, kind of similar to what that teacher said, like, what I'm actually doing to myself is not helping. It's not it's not promoting a more positive or healthy lifestyle, like, always trying to please others and putting others first. I was kind of laughing to myself this morning, like, I'm kind of like a mom with 3 kids, like, the realization of like, I'm always putting my kids first, but I didn't have any kids. I was just doing it to myself, basically, always putting that energy output. And I think I've really realized a lot lately that although I am an extroverted person, like I said before, like I really love communicating and talking to people. I really recharge when I'm an introvert and when I can be alone and when I can be at home. And I think I denied that for so many years. Like I would have that guilty feeling of like, I just want to stay in tonight, but everybody's out and like, they're going to this party or that party. And like, I don't genuinely want to go, but I feel like I should. So I would push myself to do things that I didn't want to do. Just to please others, and kind of play a role that I thought that I should be playing. So yeah, I don't really know when that realization came, but it's definitely something probably within the last few years. And it's something that I work on probably on the daily, is just, really realizing like the core of what I want and that it doesn't necessarily come externally. Like I have to figure it out inside myself.
Yeah. And on the journey, right? We can't have all the answers right now, as bad as we want them all.
Totally. That's the biggest learning experience I've probably had, for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, that can be like, okay, great. You recognize that you have that you feel like kind of like your life isn't your own and your energy is not your own. So, I mean, then there's the journey to take to transition to giving yourself that alone time and setting up self-care practices and stuff. So how did you, how did you stay consistent and true to yourself when it can be hard to say no to people, especially if the people in your life know you to be that yes kind of person?
Yeah, I totally get that. Yeah, I think for me, it's like now I try to always think to myself, like, and might have been, I don't know, Marie Forleo or some other like, woman in wellness that said this, but like, if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no.
I love that one.
And I'm really trying to like put more energy into that. That doesn't mean that you can't do things sometimes wishy-washy in between, but especially for me, I'll say even because now I work for myself and there's projects that come up, I have to be really selective because as I realized, I am that introverted personality. So if I'm booking my schedule solid with all of these things externally and, putting my energy out there, I'm going to feel burnt out.
Yeah.
And that is a constant learning experience. Some weeks I'll book myself solid and I'm like, why did I do that to myself again? And then I come back, inside and I'm like, what is it that I want? What are the important things to me? What helps, to heal me in a sense and to bring me back to like my core desires and my core truth. And it's always to like really listen to that little voice inside, which actually, I think I didn't really get to develop that little voice when I was younger. Nobody's fault. It's just, that's what happened, right? I didn't have the time to really like figure out, like I said before, opinions or just like kind of my truth around things. So it's been like an adult learning experience, really.
Yeah.
And food has just been a really big component in like driving me towards those actual kind of changes and things that I appreciate in life.
Awesome. What practices did you put in place? What were some of the favorite ones that you started to implement that really helped you to realize that you're more of an introvert and kind of those things that were recharging you when you were alone?
Totally. The biggest one and my absolute favorite one are baths. Like baths are like the one thing I want to do all the time. I get so angry when the bathtub is dirty. So much effort to clean it. So I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna have to wait till next week or whenever, right? So baths have been like the really biggest thing to actually help me kind of just like slow down. Because like you have to get vulnerable for one thing. Like you strip your clothes, you go into the bath and you can like watch your body. And also I like to listen to meditation. So that's kind of another component of what I like to do for self-care. Like I like to meditate, not really long meditations. And I'm pretty selective. Like I don't like the weird music. I don't like the, the weird voice that, there's specific things that I like that are very calming to me. So I have to find kind of the right one to fit me, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And, so when I'm in the bath, I'll usually do a little bit of a meditation and, I'll have some candles. That's a huge one. Just having that like ambient lighting, like really nice lighting helps me out. I was talking last night to my boyfriend about doing this, and he's like, you have to talk about your blankets. I love having blankets. I probably have like 15. I know that's not really self-care, but it's warmth for me. It's like protection.
I think it totally is.
Yeah. And I always have blankets, and it's like every Christmas I get a new blanket from my mom. So I love it. Awesome. And then things like yoga, introspection. I used to be a huge journaler years past. I actually don't do it as much anymore, but I do all these other things now. So yeah, those are probably my main ones that I do.
Awesome. Yeah. So you said that your journey wasn't necessarily an easy one, right? And I don't think most of our journeys are. They're all lots of detours and twists and turns and stuff, but that you said you feel blessed having gone through it. Why is that? Yeah,
that's a really good question. And it's probably one that only now I can say is a blessing, because, when you're going through it, you're like, this is the worst.
Yes.
And then when you can remove yourself and see that the journey that it took to get you here. Like I've had a million different jobs. I've lived a million different places. I always kind of thought to myself, like, why am I that friend that like just can't like get my shit together? Sorry to say that, but like, why can't I just be the one to like, be on the right path? And it's so funny. And we always want what we don't have, right? Like the grass is always greener on the other side, because now friends will say to me, like, I'm so happy to see you're on your right path and you're doing things right. Where, just years ago, I was feeling, like looking at others for that, sense of satisfaction, or, why can't I be more like that? So it's just so funny that like now looking back, like, everything happened in my life for a reason. Like I truly believe that. All of my headaches and my stomach aches and my back aches and everything I always experienced as a child and as a young adult, were for the reason that I can help others now. And I didn't really see the strength in that before, or the blessing, but now that I work with clients, the fact that I can be real with them and say like, hey, I experienced that. I know, I understand. Yeah. It's a huge blessing. Yeah. And also, when I was younger, I always loved being the friend who would like talk for hours and sit down and, like really get to the core of things. Like I was kind of always one of those people who's like, I don't want the fluff. Like I don't want or I will, but like, I thrive off of those core connections when I'm like, really like, how are you doing? Like, let's actually
for real. Yeah.
Yeah, for real. Like, like I'm glad you're doing well at work and so on and so forth, but like, how are you? And I never really saw that could maybe be like my job, but I love doing it. And now I've kind of learned like, that's my gift, is to open people up. And that's where I thrive. That is where I'm charged up and energized, when I can have that, like, I say soul connection with people. So that's where it's really been like a blessing in my life. And I've been able to look back and be like, wow, great. This really did lead me to where I'm happy to be right now. And I'm sure my journey and my path is going to wind a lot more. And I'm going to think during it, like, why is this happening? But, when I'm 50 or 60, and I can hopefully look back then and say like, this is why.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite things to say is to kind of flip it, like you're saying, instead of saying why are things happening to me, saying why are they happening for me, and this is a perfect example of that. You now can see why those things happened for you, so you can discover more of your truth and let your light shine brighter. But do you hear yourself asking similar questions when you're faced with difficult times now? And just tuning into like what the universe is sending you and things like that? Oh, yes, completely. Like completely. And it's so funny because when I was younger, as busy as my mom was like an actual, like, I don't know if I'd say a hippie, but like she was pretty spiritual. She had a yoga room in her house. She did meditations. She was a massage therapist. She would go to like Reiki sessions. And I just didn't get it at that point. Like I didn't really understand why. And it's not until later in my life now where I'm like,
she really like relied on the universe to give her direction and to lead her. And obviously she went through hard times, you know, being a single mom. And the thing she always said to me was, let go and let God. And I never really resonated with that saying, because although, you know, I was growing up to be like, I went to like a Catholic high school and my family was a little bit more religious, but for me, I never had an attachment to like, let's say like God.
Yeah.
But for me now, when I hear that, I can actually really appreciate it. And I have that little mom voice in my head where I'm like, it's not let go and let God for me. It's like, let go and let the universe work its magic. Like give over to the universe.
Yeah.
And, you know, that for someone is God, and that for someone is, you know, whatever they believe in. It can be an energy. It can be anything. It's just like something higher than me that really gives me that sense of like, somebody's got my back out there. Thank you. I feel so blessed that someone is guiding me and that I don't have to do it all on my own. So yeah, I can really see it like now why things are happening for me, right? And like really put it up like there is, I hope, a bigger plan, and you know, I'll put all of my energy into following it, because that's all I can do.
And I think when you do start to find that path, and you do, I mean, it takes guts to try and figure out what we're here for. Like, we could just sit back casually and kind of see how things play out. But to really like try and find yourself and polish yourself and go on that journey, when you're on the right path, things start. They don't get easier, but but if you're in tune, you'll get the people. You'll meet the people that you need to meet. You'll be, you know, in the situations and the environments that help you thrive. And I think just tuning into all those things that can kind of like be the wind at your back is really encouraging too.
Yeah. And even while you're saying that, I'm like, yeah, like that's so true for me, because, and I'm sure a lot of us, because I think for years, like I said before, I was like, you know, why does that person have the perfect life? Or, you know, why can they have all of their, you know, ducks in a row? And why does it seem so good for, you know, everyone else? And I was looking so externally for those things. But once I turned into myself and I was like, but what do I want? And what's important to me? And what type of like people and situations and experiences do I want to attract? I attracted those people. And I have an amazing group of friends here in Edmonton and back home in Toronto that are so, you know, uplifting and loving and, you know, kind towards me and my path, and me to them. Right.
Yeah.
And it's like this kind of like higher level of living now, where it's like, you know, I've kind of found my people, and I found my experiences, and I found the opportunities. So, I really do believe that when you put things out there, the universe will send them to you if you're open.
Absolutely. Yeah. You mentioned a couple times now how you felt like you didn't have your life together, how things weren't working well for you. I know that you like to work with people in creating a better body image, and I feel like this is something, there's so much like social stigma around what we should look like and what what our bodies should be able to do and different things like that. And I think so many times in my nutrition training program, Cynthia brought up, she said this statement, and she basically said, like, if you're overweight, it's because it's serving you in some way. And I think it's so hard to see sometimes, like, why things are the way they are, but they're always there because they're filling some sort of a need that we have. And for you now, looking back, it stinks that you had to go through such a difficult journey, but like maybe that's what you needed to really, really, you know, be able to give yourself the self-care that you need. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Definitely. And even like, you know, I did have a lot of body issues growing up. You know, I wasn't eating well, and I was never really that, you know, skinny girl that I thought I had to be, you know, like looking out in the media or at others and things like that. And that feeling of like, why can't I be like that? Right. I think we're so pressured to be like these certain people, like whoever they are out there, right? Like we need to fit this mold. And, you know, for years and years and years, I've tried to fit that mold. You know, I've never like been a super skinny person, and I've put so much pressure on myself to be that, you know, like working out really hard. And then kind of on the flip side, not working out at all, because you go through those times of just like self-hate. Of just like flip around, like, okay, I give up. Like, I didn't lose any weight, like, forget it, right? But now I'm really actually trying to look at, okay, maybe I didn't lose any weight, or maybe the weight's only dropped a little bit. Maybe I've gained a few pounds this week, but how do I feel? Like, am I energized this week? Can I wake up feeling, that I'm not tired? Don't need to press the snooze button again. Am I drinking enough water? Am I taking care of myself? Am I doing my self-care techniques? That's how I'm trying to measure my life now. And at days it can be hard when I put on something. I'm like, I feel fat. That kind of like, you just go back to that always. Like, I just feel fat. And then I'll go to the point where I'm like, I don't even want to go out. Like, forget it. But then you miss out on opportunities, and you miss out on connection, and you're letting, like a feeling that really shouldn't even exist for anyone to determine your life. And I've let that really determine a lot of my life. And, the last few years, and specifically the last few months, like, I'm really trying to zone in on, like, that's not going to determine how I live my life. And I think it's been pretty powerful for me. And now I'm really trying to be more transparent, even in my business, working with clients. Because I work with a lot of clients who, if they don't see the number change, they feel like a failure. And that to me is the most upsetting thing ever, because I've seen them progress so much, and, they're a different person, but yet that number is like, has such a strong hold on how you feel about yourself. And as women, I think we're trained to feel that way, and that's really just not the truth at all.
Well, I think there's so much messaging out there. Like, I grew up very thin. Like, I was very athletic. I actually had like the opposite issue. Like, I needed to put on weight just so I could, like, have balanced hormones and, like, continue to perform athletically. And, even still, like, once I got done playing basketball, like, I didn't really have body image thoughts then, because my body was just for that, kind of was my mindset, But, like, afterwards, it was like, should I be losing weight? Like, everywhere I turn, it's like, you can lose 10 pounds by doing this, or diet to do that. And, like, I was, at some points underweight, but still, like, asking myself, like, should I be doing these things? Like, because we're constantly being told, like, this is the latest diet, do this to lose weight, do this to trim down. And it's like, we don't always need to trim down. And I think sometimes, for me personally, I continued to have hormone imbalances because I didn't have enough body weight. And it's so hard to, like, to take it there and realize that, like, it's not about the number on the scale. It's about how your body's performing, and is this working for me?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So sometimes I think we need to start like a petition just to throw out all scales.
Yeah, totally. I don't even go there with my clients. Like, I just recently put, like, on my intake forms, like, if weight loss is a goal, what is your current weight? I really toyed with that for a long time because it's not important to me, but I find it's very important to some people, and I have to honor that.
Yes.
As a marker, right? But I'm always trying to push, like, different goals, like personal goals, how you feel about yourself. Because like you said, the hormone thing, you can have imbalanced hormones. If you're like, you don't have enough body weight, if you have too much body weight, probably if you have fine body weight, right? Like, but if you're just determining your, well-being by a number, you're not addressing these other issues, right?
Right.
So it's really just kind of, I think, really listening to your body. And then, naturally, a lot of the time, if you do start eating cleaner and you do start, feeling less stressed, feeling less body hate and body image issues, like, either the weight will drop off, or you won't even care anymore about the weight. That won't even be
I think our mindset is so darn powerful. Like, I feel like whatever we focus on is like, we have our certain areas that it's like every time you look at yourself, if you're focusing on that area of your body that you hate, meanwhile, you're missing out on all the other cool stuff that's happening or all the other cool things your body can do. But if we can just shift our mindset to something more positive, it can have such a profound impact.
And I can't even remember the name of this. I think it was a scientist or somebody did that experiment. It might have been a Chinese or a Japanese scientist. And they used like water molecules and they said the really negative things to some water molecules. And then they turned all like muddy and gross and like not didn't look well. And then there were some water molecules that like, they said like beautiful things like, you know, I love you and things like that. And they were like these beautiful crystal water molecules. Yes. And it just shows, like, I always think about that example, like on a cellular level, you know, it's not just what you're saying externally, like, oh, I feel fat. It's like those negative self-talk things that you're like, wait a minute, am I just repeating the same bad things to myself over and over? And like, you know, if I'm doing that internally, not even externally, what's that doing to me inside? How is that changing my cellular makeup? Yeah. And, you know, like even especially hormones and things like that, like how am I changing as a person by telling myself these negative things over and over?
And it's, I go back and forth. Like sometimes I feel like affirmations are like, you know, just incredible. But I was reading Danielle Laporte's Desire Map. Have you done her program?
I haven't, but I know a lot about it. I just
So in there, she mentioned something about basically how she's not really a believer in affirmations because she's like, I feel like I'm lying to myself. You know, if it's like I'm thin and I'm fit and like my body is amazing. Like if you don't truly believe that to your core, then your subconscious is like screaming at you that you're a liar, right?
Yeah, totally.
Versus like if you can say, like she talks about just wanting to say how you want to feel, like I want to feel whatever, and then your body you can make that connection. You've told yourself only truths, you know. And I think it was just an interesting thing for me because you hear so much about affirmations, and it was just kind of a different spin on that.
Totally. And I think even on that point, like I think we should be doing a lot of these things. Like we should have a bath, you know, because Stephanie said so, or we should do yoga, or we should meditate. But like, if that's not the right thing for you, don't do it, because that's going to cause you more stress and more harm, in my opinion, than you know, doing it and forcing your body into something it's not comfortable with. So, I mean, I think self-care can be lots of things. Like it can be a walk to the park. It can be going for brunch with friends. It can be, you know, playing with your dog, whatever, right? It can be many different things. Yeah. And I think we just need to get over that, like what I should be doing, and then think more on like, what do I want to be doing and what's best for me, right? It's like, it's being our own mother in a sense, and like protecting that little child inside of us, right? Because we all have that little kid that's like, maybe wasn't cared for or didn't get the development they needed or wasn't heard. And then even to grow on that, you know, like the one little thing that is said to you as a child that, you know, becomes that core belief, and you just believe it over and over and over. So I think we just really need to, you know, transition to believing more in ourselves and having those positive mindsets.
Yeah, I agree. You are kind of a master at self-care, it seems like. So can you share some of the things? I know you've mentioned several examples of things you like to do already, but what are some ways that maybe you personally spruce up regular kind of ho-hum kind of self-care activities to make them extra special, or just extra tips for that?
Totally. So like I said, baths are my favorite one. My number one thing is to not put chemicals in my bath. Like I would never buy a bubble bath that's full of chemicals, because to me that's like not self-care. I want something that's going to be rejuvenating and like seep into my body at a deeper level and do good instead of harm. So usually I'll use like a natural bubble bath, or I might I usually use Epsom salts. So I'll make my own little kind of Epsom salt scrubs, and I'll usually put like lavender essential oil in, sometimes peppermint, grapefruit. I usually like to go with the uplifting ones, the ones that are going to give me a little bit more energy. And although they're energizing, I usually feel very calm, like very, you know, mellow and balanced.
Yeah.
So baths, and then like I said, while I'm having a bath, I'll usually either listen to a meditation, maybe a podcast, really whatever I feel like doing. And then with meditation, like I'm always making sure they're short no more than 10 minutes. I don't have the biggest attention span for some things. So for me, that's fine. And I don't beat myself up on if I can't do longer than even 5 minutes, but I'll even do short meditations where I just close my eyes and I deep breathe, and take care of myself that way, or just one breath. If I'm, doing something and then I'm like, okay, just breathe. And for me, that's that like, okay, I'm taking care of myself right now. I'm coming back inside and saying, okay, this is what I need.
Yeah. And being aware of like how you feel.
Totally. Yeah. Totally. And then, like I said, like staying home for me is a self-care thing. It can be on the flip side sometimes where I'm like, okay, I've stayed home too much. Now I need to get out because, I need that recharging externally. But a lot of the time staying home, is that recharging on my own. And I'll have, a diffuser going with essential oils. So I usually have essential oils like in my home, going something usually like a wild rose, because that's really good for stress and anxiety. Again, it can really help to balance the body. So I'm usually have a diffuser going, maybe some candles or some incense at times. When I'm home, I'm making sure I drink lots of water. Especially being in Edmonton. I'm not sure if anyone out there's been here, but it is dry. So I will drink like 8 to 10 cups of water, maybe more a day, and I'll still be like dehydrated. So I'm always drinking water. Yoga sometimes. And then I guess some of the different ones that I like to do, I really like natural beauty. Like I've never been a makeup person. I've always been pretty lucky to have like clear skin, other than like acne, hormonal acne, teenage acne, things like that.
Sure.
But I really like to take care of my skin. So I'll usually use a dry brush, which is like a natural bristle brush. And you are using it to like brush your body, usually from your feet up to your waist, and then like the rest of your body towards your heart. You can find lots of pictures online to show you how to properly do it. But yeah, you can dry brush your body, and that actually stimulates something called the lymphatic system, which is similar to the circulatory system, but actually it doesn't have a pump. So all of that like liquid that accumulates in the lymphatic system just sits there. And a lot of the times that's toxins. So you want to use the brush to kind of pump that lymph juice, I guess, through your body, to help you eliminate it through your body. So I'll usually dry brush with frankincense, which is a really like skin rejuvenating essential oil. And that's all I can really think about right now. But, I have a lot in, if push comes to shove, I'll usually just at least breathe deeply, have a glass of water, maybe just say something positive in my head. Or if I have a negative thought, I'll just say, hey, you don't belong there right now. Get out of here. I try to do that as much as possible. But I've got lots of wellness things. I'm still adding lots in, but these are the ones that work for me right now.
Yeah. Well, and I love that you mentioned we have so many people talk about whatever their background is. Almost everybody brings up meditation during their interview. And I love that you've kind of figured out that long ones don't really work for you. I assume you've tried some long ones.
Yeah, I just kind of zone out, I think, which I think people say that can be meditation, right? Like, I think you just have to, it's whatever you want it to be, right? Yes. You can meditate in the car listening to music. I don't think it's one specific thing, but I do really like the ones with the guided voice and the quiet music. But I find after 10 minutes, my attention's gone, and maybe that's just my body telling me that's all I need. So,
but I love that you like play with it, and that you have tried longer ones, and because I think sometimes people are like, no, I don't like to slow down, or I don't like, and sometimes what we don't like is what we need most, to have that balance. But just because we don't like it doesn't mean we shouldn't try it, but just because we've tried it and we don't like it doesn't mean we need to, like you said, force ourselves to keep doing it or feeling guilty if we're not doing it.
It's
like you said, tuning into what feels good for you.
Yeah. Cause then it's like if you don't like it, it's like torturing yourself, and that's not self-care then, right? But if you feel so much, and like even I'm thinking lately more, as I'm trying to get more fitness into my routine, and wanting to kind of wake up my body in different ways. And I've really just enjoyed dancing, to be honest. I'll put on like Justin Bieber or something ridiculous and just dance. And I'm like, that was my workout. I don't know, you know, like that was fine for me, and just allow myself, like, I don't have to go to the gym and, you know, run on the treadmill. I don't have to do like a high intensity class or do CrossFit or, you know, like that works for some people, but maybe that doesn't work for me, and learning that like, that's fine. So that's been a big learning curve as well. Just like what works for me, what doesn't. And as my body changes and I change, you know, those things change, right? So it's just not being rigid and like, this is the one thing and I'm going to keep with this, whether it's good for me or not, right? It's going back to that teacher. I swear she like changed my life with that one sentence, like, is what you're doing right now serving you? And like, just always thinking about that and like, is it? I'm not sure, you know, like that's probably the question I should ask myself every single day when I wake up in the morning.
Yeah. That's very powerful. Do you want to talk more about natural cleaning products, beauty care, things like that?
Yeah, I mean, like, there's lots of different things that you can use. I just like to always remind people, like, what you're putting on your body is going in your body. And for me, that's really important because, like, on a daily basis, I don't know, there's certain statistics, that say, like, you can put, I don't know, up to 300 or 1,000, or I forget the number, but things on your body just in the morning. And like I said, you know, like luckily enough, never really got into the makeup thing, or maybe unluckily for other people. I don't know. But my mom was always really supportive at telling me I had a natural beauty. So you know what? I do. So I was always really lucky to feel that way about myself. But, you know, I wasn't slathering my face in makeup every day and chemicals, and I, you know, wouldn't have a bunch of beauty products. I mean, at a point, of course I did. I wanted that herbal essence smelling hair, right? But once I started transitioning over, it just felt like, well, what's the need for these things, you know? Sure, it's nice to smell good, but, you know, is that negatively affecting my health? So I started making a lot of my own products. You know, and specifically my boyfriend, he developed psoriasis at one point. So I started making a lot of healing balms that he could use on his skin. Very simple ingredients, you know, things like coconut oil, maybe some essential oils. There's a million recipes you can find online. And, you know, I was just so happy that I could use something that was like healing for him without chemicals. And, you know, like knock on wood, the psoriasis left and, you know, didn't come back. So we were really lucky. And, you know, I always just try to make things when I can. You know, you can save a lot of money that way, but also, I think you just feel more attached to it, and it feels like there's more like loving energy in something like that. Yes. Something you buy in a store and you're not sure, and then maybe feel icky about it, and you're like, but I'll try it anyways, right? So, I mean, I love doing natural skincare stuff. The cleaning products I'm getting into more now. But again, that's another like thing where essential oils can play a huge role. Because there's lots of cleansing properties and purifying properties in them. So I'm not quite there yet to give great advice on it, but it's coming.
But it's good. You're ready to head down that path. There's always like a limb to be traveled down, right?
Totally. Yeah. And the funniest thing, again, now like looking at like the journey or the fork in the road led me here. For a while when I was doing the healing balms like for psoriasis and eczema and that, I was selling them at that point just to friends and family. And I had a lot of people saying to me like, you should really like sell these. You should have like a brand. And so I made a company, and I like kind of was going through the process of, you know, like registering this business name to have like my own like beauty care products.
Sure.
And I got to the point where I was like, well, that doesn't really make me happy. And I don't want to just be making constant products and labeling and marketing that. And now I actually teach classes in the Edmonton area on how to make your own like edible beauty care products, or not just edible, but like natural ones and things like that. And, you know, I love teaching. So there, I tied something together that I really like doing with another passion, such as teaching. And it's, you know, I didn't have to give up that dream in a sense. I can now pass it on to other people and empower other people to do the same thing. So I think it actually makes more sense now, the path that I went down, as opposed to the one I thought I should go down at that time.
I relate so strongly because last August I had decided I was going to start making and selling the paleo treats that I loved making out of a gluten-free bakery in the downtown near us. And so I got all started, and I was like, this is perfect. Like, you know, I'll be able to provide everybody with like paleo treats. And then I was like, you know what? I want nothing more to do with this. Yeah. I would rather go on and like inspire people to find ways to make it their own. I think the teaching element is fun too. I agree. There's something to be said about like, it's like you can, what is that? You can teach a man to fish.
Oh yeah.
Well, I don't know exactly what that.
Yeah, or you can catch a fish for a man, or teach him how to fish for himself. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, but I mean, the gist is like if you teach somebody else how to do it, and the cool part too is like if they're empowered, you know, to go do that, like how many other things are they going to be inspired to, like it seeps into the rest of their life.
Yeah, like exactly. It's very empowering, right? And I love when people come to classes and they're like, oh, I'm so excited, and when's your next class? And like, I want to learn this other thing now. Maybe they didn't, because I think also as like a wellness professional, we just assume people know these things.
Yes.
So when you finally start sharing it, you're like, oh, you kind of have to start at the basics again, because like these people may not have the same background. So there's so many different levels where people can join in and they will resonate with them, right?
Everybody there wants to be there to live a better life, you know, and it's I think uplifting.
Totally.
Like, those workshops are fun.
Yeah, they are. They're really fun.
Cool. Stephanie, if you had 5 minutes to create better wellness, what would you do for yourself? I know you've got an arsenal of tools.
I know. I was trying to think, and I'm like, oh my God, this is all going to take way longer than 5 minutes. But so I stretched it maybe to 10. But my first one was I probably drink a glass of lemon water. So I know I talked about water before, but lemon water is great because it boosts your stomach acid. So without going way into this, because this could be a whole other podcast, but a lot of the time we think we have too much stomach acid where we really don't have enough. So lemon water is one of those things where it will boost your stomach acid and really essentially giving you a happy belly so you don't have bloating and gas and those type of things. And for me, I have experienced a lot of stomach issues in my life. So if I can start my health off on a positive note each day with lemon water, that's what I will do. I said dry brushing. That probably does take 5 minutes. So I'm already past my quota, but I would probably dry brush. Just, it's very invigorating to the body. So I think for me, it like lifts my energy and lifts my spirit. And then I would probably just do like a deep breath, like that felt really good.
Yeah.
Like it just feels good.
It does.
It's like a reconnection type of thing. So yeah, I'd probably do the lemon water, the dry brushing, a deep breath. And there's probably another million things and I'd be late to wherever I'm going. So, and which does happen. So yeah, I have to like really narrow it down, I think.
Well, at least you're late, full of self-love and feeling good.
Yeah. People always like that, right? It's a positive thing.
So probably just going to be as challenging for you. What is your most powerful health habit?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think what it is being kinder to myself. And that's not like a tangible thing really. Like it's not something I can buy or put my hands on, but I just spent so many years beating myself up and trying to change parts of myself and like trying to fit into a mold. Like I said before, and you know, like getting to that point, like I'm just not good enough. And like, that's such a negative thing to say to yourself. And I think we say it all the time. We just don't realize it. Like, I think if we wrote down everything that came into our head, we'd be like, whoa, we're terrible. And you never say that to a friend. You wouldn't be like, you suck, right? Like, you're just like, I love you and you're an amazing person, even if you don't see it. But we're so mean to ourselves a lot of the time. And I think the most powerful thing that, like, even the last few months I've really been focusing on is, you know, getting up in the morning and just saying to myself, like, you know, even like I am loved, I am safe, you know, I'm healthy, I'm happy. And, you know, it does work for me. I mean, I can see Danielle Laporte's like way of saying what she said about affirmations. And I think that's true. And I think it depends where you're coming from. But I like to use ones that are like half truths at least, right?
Yeah.
Or I can see that they can come into fruition if I like focus on them, right?
Right.
So yeah, just being kinder to myself, more loving and supportive, and like filling my own cup before I can fill others. Because I think I would always give myself away to others and then become resentful. Had a lot of resentment for years of other people. Not that they ever did anything that I should be resentful for, but just because I wasn't looking after myself, and I was mad that they were expecting my time and I didn't have time for myself. So now I really try to flip it and fill my own cup first so I can fill other people's cups.
Lovely. You are such a beautiful person. I'm so excited that you get to be on this show. I love that you really do embrace that. I can hear that you embrace it to your core, to just be kind to yourself and spread that message to other people. Because if we all were just a little bit nicer to ourselves, it would be a much more, I think all of our interactions would be a much more pleasant thing.
Yeah, I really hope so. I really do. I hope that for everyone. So yeah. Thank you very much for having me. This has been a pleasure.
Absolutely. We'll hope to have you on again sometime, okay?
Totally.
All right,
okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us for today's episode of Gather for Wellness Radio. We'd greatly appreciate if you'd leave a review over on iTunes, Stitcher, or the blog. And don't forget to share this episode with your friends, family, and on social media. We hope you'll join us for the next episode. But until then, keep being awesome.
The information on this podcast and on gatherforwellness.com is not intended to replace a one-on-one relationship with a qualified healthcare professional and is not intended to be taken as medical advice. Becky encourages you to make your own healthcare decisions based upon your research and in partnership with a qualified healthcare professional. The entire contents of this website and podcast are based upon the opinions of Becky Litwicki and her guests, unless otherwise noted. The information provided is for entertainment purposes only.